First of all, thank you so much, Akshay, for joining the call. I think it's morning time here while I'm in US, and I suppose it's evening time there while you're in Japan.
Yeah,
So before I ask you for an introduction about Akshay as a person, can you just tell me about how is Japan, right? How's the weather? This the typical question that people ask. Yeah.
it's quite hot these days. It's typical here in Japan, in Tokyo specifically. July and August are quite dreadful, I would say. Uh, so I'm just putting on air conditioning, table fan whenever possible. Yeah, it's quite hot.
So, just a quick, there's no centralized system in just like the HVAC AC system there.
Uh, Probably it might be in some other apartments, but not where I am staying right
All
now.
right. No, just wanted to get a brief idea. I think this question was specifically for myself. I also wanted to gain an understanding. But yeah, anyways,
Yeah.
now talking about, I just wanted to give a brief introduction from my side as well about Akshay. I'll talk about more like a personal experience what I had. Professional Akshay will talk that like all about himself the whole time. So personally, I know Akshay, I think for nearly 10 years, and I think we haven't met since 2019. It's been a long time after we completed our undergraduate degree from the same college. Then Akshay went for his master's. We'll have a separate video for that. And then Akshay went for his master's, and then he started working, and then I came to US as well. But as a person, I feel like Akshay is a really nice person because I think I know him for nearly 8, 9 years. And the really good part that I love about him as a person is he's a really family guy. And I am that too. I think that's why we resonate a lot. And he plays nice table tennis as well. I'm not sure if he still continues these days that as well, but one thing for sure, he used to play a really nice table tennis. So that's kind of a quick summary from my side about Akshay. Now, Akshay, I wanted you this whole platform and talk about yourself. So, can you help us with a brief introduction about yourself?
Sure. So hi, I'm Akshay. I work as a wireless systems engineer at Apple. While I'm not working, I'm busy watching sports like tennis and football. Um, I have kind of lost my knack for playing table tennis these days. It's been a while that I played table tennis.
But I'm sure, once you
Yeah,
start playing,
that's
you'll gain it back.
maybe. Yeah,
Okay.
that's about me.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And actually, now because this series that I have is more about, I wanted to gain more understanding about your professional journey, internships and full-time jobs. So you were there in US, and back in 2019, you started your journey in US. So first, I wanted to gain an understanding. How was your internship search experience? And how did you land a job before we get to the full-time piece of it, if you can like help us know about that.
Sure. So when I came to do my master's, I wasn't decided on which field that I'm gonna go into. So because of this, my profile was kind of generic, and I guess that contributed to the fact that I think I had a hard time finding an internship. I did apply, reached out to folks on LinkedIn, but that didn't work out. So I ended up doing a research assistantship at my university during my master's.
Mhm.
So that was also a good experience, I guess, and it did contribute nicely
Perfect.
for my full-time search.
Perfect. Perfect. So now I think my question would delve into the piece of about the full-time experience. But before that, if I had to ask, like, did you feel like the experience as a research assistant you had during your internship phase of it kind of help maybe in the search of full-time job, but or if not that, but during interviewing that phase or something on those lines?
Yeah, it definitely did. So I I was able to add the work that I did in my assistantship in my resume. Uh, and during my interviews, I had that particular thing, which was my most recent experience, to talk about in the interviews. And that kind of helped build conversation on that topic with the interviewer. And then, so it did help during my interviews, and it did add weightage to my resume as well.
Got it. Got it. Perfect. So now I'll talk about yeah, the full-time experience that you had. Of course, when you initially started the search and then the interview phase of it. So if you can help us go through that period parallelly.
Sure. So I started my full-time job search as soon as my internship, not internship, but research assistantship kind of ended, which was, I think, 4 to 5 months before I graduated. That's when I started my full-time job search heavily, I would say. And it was still going on in parallel, but not as heavily as I would have imagined. So it was all applications, LinkedIn, reaching out to folks, asking for referrals. Uh, if not referrals, then directly reaching out to hiring managers,
Mhm.
because that would give a more chance of you securing an interview,
Got
because that's what essentially you are looking forward to getting an interview.
got it.
So
And
I did go ahead.
sorry to interrupt, Akshay. I just because you
Yeah.
were talking about it, it just came up to my mind. So while you were doing this search, what was the like? How many people were responding? Like, was it like 50%, 25%, 100%? What range would you put in? Why am I asking is this question? Is that when people start their journey, I just want to make sure that they are also aware of it's a bed of thorns before it's a bed of
Yeah,
peace eventually. So if you can like
yeah,
briefly talk about it as well.
sure. So of course, I mean, you should manage expectations when you're reaching out to folks on LinkedIn. You cannot expect everyone you reach out to reply or help you out. But I think for me, it was about 25% success rate. I think which is decent enough, I would
Yeah,
say.
which is decent enough. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. Now talking about now that I know Akshay, you before you started working at Apple, you were working. So before you started working at Apple, you were working before in a company as well. So I want to know about how that process was getting your first job, and before we talk about Apple and all. So if you can
Sure.
help us like in that journey.
Sure. So I did an interview with my first company, which was called Lightpoint, which is also in the wireless semiconductors industry. Um, Excuse me. So I did an interview there while I was in school, in my master's. So it was a generic interview process, meaning first would be the phone screen, and then would be a full on-site, which was about 3 to 4 interviewers, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
That the interview was focused on uh, all the wireless technologies fundamentals, as
Mhm.
well as some C++ programming questions.
Okay.
So that was kind of the interview uh, for that first company.
Got it. And how many rounds of interviews you had for that first company?
So first was I think it was a phone screen,
Okay.
and then it was a full day, not full day, but I think a half day of interviews,
Mhm.
meaning I think 3 interviewers
Got it.
uh, at that time. And I think, if I remember correctly, those 3 interviewers were all in the same Zoom meeting session. So they were, and then they took turns asking questions.
Oh, so it was like a panel was sitting of multiple people, and
Right,
one by one they started asking questions. It was
right.
Well,
Right,
okay.
right,
Oh,
right.
okay. Okay, nice, nice, perfect.
Yeah.
And okay, now talking about uh, about Apple. I know that now I know there's a back end story about it. So before we get to the main piece of Apple, can we also delve into first how it started, how the journey actually started before you came here?
Sure, sure. So while I was interviewing for my first company, I was
Okay,
also interviewing with Apple
got it.
for a different role. Uh, and then it didn't work out
Mhm.
that time, but the feedback was positive. That's what I heard from the recruiter. So I managed to get through the phone screen as well as the full panel interview.
Oh,
But eventually it didn't work out.
okay.
Uh, and then I started my first job at Lightpoint, and then in parallel, then the next phase of the story begins.
You said you were able to have the interview with the panel round while you were in applying for Apple or giving interview for Apple. So if you can talk about like a brief detail about what kind of questions, if if you remember, because it's been some time, but like what domain of questions they were asking, and also like how many rounds of interview were there that you were able to manage to get through.
Sure. So we're talking about the first phase, right?
The first phase, yeah, before we.
Right. So first phase was divided into first was phone screen.
Okay,
Second one was hiring manager interview,
okay,
and then the full panel interview, which consisted of about 5 to 6 interviews
okay.
in a single day. So
Okay.
it was spread about for from 11 a.m. to about 5 p.m.
Wow.
So couple of hours of interviews, then a break, again couple of hours, then a break, and then an hour or two of the last interview.
Wow.
And to answer your next question, it was mainly focused on wireless technologies fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my resume mainly. So 80% of the questions were based on my resume.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for a new grad, irrespective of the domain, it would be your interview would most likely be based on your resume.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what happened with me. It was mostly based on my resume and some programming questions. Uh, that's what happened throughout the full panel as well as the hiring manager
Got it.
interview.
And this is year 2022 that we are talking about. 2021,
2021 end.
2021 end. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Perfect.
Okay, I take it back. 2020 end. So this is
20.
the
Oh,
before
okay.
I graduated. Yeah, so I
Oh, that's.
graduated in 2021.
Oh. So,
Uh,
just to my clarity, you got the first Apple interview even before the interview that you got the company that you were working in for the first time after grad.
I think yeah, it was. I think it was both of those were in parallel at the same
Okay.
time.
Perfect. Perfect. And
Uh,
now, before we get to my next question, would obviously be, the interview of Apple, the second interview of Apple that you gave in, how was it? But I just want to get on asking because you were a part of the process where you got an interview from a company like Apple initially, while you were still studying, if I may, and then for whatever reason, it wasn't, like up to the line or up to the mark, and it didn't work out, let's say.
yeah.
So I wanted to ask because there would be a lot of people who would be applying, and they might get rejects, which is a common thing. It's not something which is uncommon. But I just wanted to get an information or understanding from you. How did you deal with it? Uh, and then you can talk about the next interview phase.
Sure. Of course, it was a tough pill to swallow. I couldn't help but feel disappointed and dejected. Uh, I really thought at that time it was the end of the world, and I mean, nothing could ever work out, to be honest. But looking back at that moment, it was bound to happen. Thing that made me realize that nothing is the end of the world. And I think good things are in store for sure. You just have to get through all the things. And I really love that quote that I heard somewhere. I think it was Tom Hanks who said that, but it was, "This too shall pass."
Yes,
And it kind of stuck with me. Uh, if you're having a good time, this too shall pass. If you're having a bad time, this too shall pass.
correct, correct.
So yeah, that's what I thought about it. But then, of course, I had my family, I had my friends who I could rely on.
Yeah,
Uh, that definitely helped a lot.
got it.
Uh, talking to people who are with you. Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think that's the important phase. I feel like people must know, you need to have somebody to rely upon or bank upon, if I may, because I'm sure you would have also felt a bit tough time while getting now back into the same process of applying to jobs and connecting with people. I'm not sure how many days you took for yourself initially, but yeah, I mean, it's a tough process. That's one thing that I
Uh,
want people to know about. That's the only reason, I want people to learn about your journey. That's
yeah. Makes
okay.
sense.
So now, can you help us understand how was the second round of interviews with Apple, if where you finally got in?
Sure. So I started working at my first company,
Mhm.
and then I think 8 months after I started working, I again got a call from a recruiter at Apple, who mentioned that there is a new team that's being building. Would you like to check out an opportunity that's developing in the new team
Mhm.
that's being built at Apple? I said, okay, sure, let's check it out. And then I had a call with my hiring with the hiring manager of the new team, and then it went well. It was about 45 minutes. It went well. It was kind of a nice conversation that involved technical aspects as well as I think not. I think it was mostly technical. Uh, and after that, the recruiter came back, reached out to me again, saying that since it's kind of a new team, they are still looking for experienced candidates right now. But the interview went well, and they've read that they would be in touch if I mean in the future if things uh, begin to settle down within the new team. And then a couple of months later, they again reached out to me saying that now they have kind of got a couple of experienced folks in the team, and if I was interested, then for an interview. After that, I got a full panel interview again of about 4 to 5 hours. 4 to 5 folks interviewing me, and that went well, fortunately, this time around. And then, yeah, and then after that, 1 year since I mean, 1 year after I worked at my first company, I joined Apple, and I have been here since.
No. Oh, that's really amazing, man. I think when things work out, it really looks nice. But then at the back end, things that were happening, that's something that people are, unaware of generally. I mean, at the front end,
Definitely.
if I was somebody new and I looked at your LinkedIn profile, I would have seen, oh, well, that's a nice, gradual increase. But then nobody knows what's happening at the back end. So yeah, that's something that's bound to happen. So now actually, I wanted to also understand that the difference. I just wanted people to know that the difference while I came in US was I came in with some kind of experience, and when Akshay came in directly after his undergrad to his master's. So I might have a different point of view. You might have a different point of view, but I just want to hear and I want people to understand your point of view as well. Uh, do you maybe I'm wrong, but do you feel like while you were interviewing for the first time for Apple and while you were interviewing for the second time for Apple, let's say what I can see from like on paper the difference was you had some years of experience now, working in US in the same domain maybe if I'm not mistaken. But do you
Yeah.
feel like if you had to, segregate what could have been the difference during the first set of interviews at Apple and the second set of interviews of Apple, do you think that I don't know, I'm just assuming, but how would you think about it or talk about it?
So you're saying that what's the difference between the first time I gave an interview and the second time I gave an interview?
Yeah, so I wanted to understand from your point of view, if you had to talk to someone who's 23, do you think that experience matters for like a full-time interview, or like how do you think about it? Because I feel like my note here is that if it's not in the same domain, then I don't
Hmm.
think it really matters. But because I worked in India first, it's like grass is always greener on the other side. So what's your take on that? I just wanted to understand. If you like, would you suggest somebody to gain experience or?
I think I would agree with you on that one, that if you work in one domain,
Okay,
and if you are looking for a job in that same domain, then that experience definitely helps
okay,
for sure.
uh-huh.
But if you have worked in one domain, and if you are looking to for a job in a different domain that's different altogether, then I think that experience um, would not count towards your chances as much as that previous experience that you have gotten in that working in that same domain.
Okay.
I think that's what I would imagine. Of course, I mean that experience still matters because it shows your commitment and all those other things,
Mhm.
but not as much as it would have had it been in that same domain that you're seeking the next job in.
Perfect, perfect. And now that we talked about it, again, it's the same question in the first Apple interview and the second Apple interview. Initially, I'm assuming I just want to know if I'm correct or not. So first they talked about the project at that point in time, and
Mhm.
when it was the second set of interviews, their focus was more with regards to uh, the job that you had recently did, and the projects are just focused completely on the job. Because you yeah, I wanted to know, like, was it based on resume
But
or outside of resume?
yeah. So after I mean, during the second phase, I mean, during the second interviews with Apple, I would essentially think of myself as a new grad only.
Okay.
So even though I had a few
Okay.
months of experience,
Uh-huh.
I would still think of myself as I was a new grad.
Okay.
Because initially the first few months
Hmm.
of your company and of your job, it kind of they go towards you settling down, getting hang of the projects that are being going around and all those things.
Right.
So my second set of interview with Apple was I mean it did involve my work experience at my first company,
Hmm.
but it was also my projects and my school experience uh, was also talked about heavily in the interviews. For example, my research assistantship, my projects that I did in my graduate school. I think in one of the interviews, even one of my final undergrad project, the final BE project that we call,
Oh,
that was also talked about
oh, oh,
in one of the interviews, if I remember correctly.
wow. Oh, that's amazing to know. Oh, and so
Uh,
they really get into your resume, because if
yeah,
you're,
I mean, you never know what the interviewer might like
yes,
about your resume. Some interviewer might like this particular work because they might have done that in
yeah,
their past experience, worked on that technology.
yeah,
So then that kind of strikes a chord between the interviewer and the interviewee, and
yeah,
then you kind of talk on that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. And I think just a few more last questions. One question that I had, you talked about your graduate school and the projects that you did. Do you think, just for the viewers, Akshay graduated from UCLA. So do you think the name itself matters, or maybe if not the name, but the experience that you gained while you were studying. Uh, because I know, while you come to US, I think internship you have to just start applying when that's the norm that people say. So I don't know how much people have already learned during the period they're still, coming to their campuses. But yeah, I just wanted to know, like, do you feel there was a difference because of that?
So I think to answer your first question, university name, I think it sticks with you for
Oh,
life.
okay,
Uh, but I don't think that I think it matters to fetch interviews to some extent,
got it,
to get you some interviews.
got it.
But essentially, 95% of the times, it's how you perform in that interview.
Of course,
That's what matters the most.
of course.
So I think the name of the university does matter to a certain extent,
Yes,
but I would put more weightage on how you perform in the interview
of course.
on that. And of course, I mean, there are certain things which are not in your hand and after your interview because you don't know what goes on behind the scenes within the company.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, that's a different story. But that yeah.
perfect, perfect. Okay. So I think now the last question that I had, I'm not sure if you're nearly time or not, but I think this is one last question that I have for you. I just
Uh,
want to know if it was 22, 23-year-old Akshay again, what advice would you give him uh, uh, through this process, starting from, if not college, but at least internship and full-time search and, getting that full-time offer? What changes would you do? And why am I asking is that, people who are viewing could be somebody who would be potentially trying to get into US or trying to apply for jobs. So what changes would you suggest? Or if not, what were the best the peaks that you felt, this was the right thing that I did. So even that works out. So
mhm.
if you can like help us know about those
Sure.
things.
So when I first came to the US, I didn't have one domain uh, in mind.
Okay.
Because of that, it was getting difficult for me to find a job. So I was kind of I had my hands all over, I mean, everywhere, and not I hadn't picked or selected a field that
Mhm.
I was kind of ready to go all in. Um, and I think a few months after my master started, I then started delving into wireless field because I had my undergrad degree in wireless field.
Okay.
And I would say to folks listening this, I think select a field, go all in into it, um, um, and I think that definitely helps because that shows that you're focused on one subject or one field, and once you choose that field, dev the resume gets developed automatically, and then that kind of increases your chances um, for getting picked and things to talk about in the interview.
Okay.
Uh, yeah.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Yeah, no, that's a really nice suggestion because if it was me, I mean, compared to, I mean, if I had to compare myself with you, I would say I've been moving into different domains again and again since the past 5, 6 years. So yeah, I think because that really helps you getting like bottlenecked or narrowed down into one approach, so that even if somebody looks at your profile, they're like, and Akshay, if I'm not mistaken, we both did our undergrad in electronics and telecommunication domain, and which you already
Yes.
mentioned, kind of. So
Yes.
that also kind of played a part in your journey because you.
Definitely.
Got it.
Definitely. But I
Got it.
would like to add one more thing that um, if you are, uh, into one field, I think it might also help once you're into one field or once you have established or once you have gotten job into that field. And if you want to transition to a different field,
Uh-huh.
um, it might it might work out afterwards as well. So
Okay.
once you get a job, once you settle in,
Yes.
because I think for us it getting a job is kind of
Yeah.
top
Mean.
priority when you're in the US. So that was for me. And then I think that's what my thought process was. I get a job, and then about thinking about exploring other fields, probably that's a possibility in the future that you can explore.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I mean, which is easier if you're in the job and then you can switch internally as compared to applying externally and you never know if somebody would respond and, how long will it get to land your first job. Perfect.
Maybe, maybe.
Perfect. Okay, I think Akshay, we are at time, I guess. So thank you so much for all these guidance and information and talking about your journey a lot. So yeah, I mean that's what I really like about you, and helping people understand what you've been through the journey. So that's really important. I want people to know the reality, be it a harsh reality or be it a sound reality. So,
Yeah.
actually, I'm sorry. Just one last question, because we talked about the harsh
Sure.
reality. So, being an international student, as we both are, you, uh, of course, we have to go through this process of getting an work visa, which is also called H-1B in US, because initially we are on the F-1, which is the student visa. So, if you're comfortable with it, would you, I know there's a story behind that as well. So if you can give us a brief, talk about how was it and how do you feel about it and what's the situation now? Or, I don't know. I mean, something on those lines.
Yeah. I mean, uh, so H1, as you might know, you get three attempts. Three because we have got STEM OPT
Mhm.
of 1 + 2 years, so essentially 3 years, and we get three attempts to get our H1 picked in the lottery. Um, I had rotten luck, and I mine wasn't picked in all the three attempts. So Apple fortunately was with me and backed me, and they sent me or they relocated me to Japan, uh, the Tokyo, Japan office of Apple. So I've been here for about 4 months now. Um and this year, so I hope to be back in the US probably by next year. Not sure.
Right.
Let's see how that thing pans out.
Right. Perfect. No, thank you. Thank you so much, Akshay, for talking about it because I mean it's a tough path, it's a tough journey. That's what I mean by harsh reality. It's not a
Uh,
bed of roses, of course. So
yeah.
yeah, perfect. No,
These
thank you.
things you're not in your
Yeah,
hands,
yeah.
so there's no point in crying over it, I guess.
But I think at some point in time you feel like I'm sure you might have also felt, why did this happen? Of course, I mean, it's a human nature.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. You just get over it. Yeah, this too shall pass.
Yes, yes. Perfect. Thank you so much, Akshay. Thanks for ending with the quote again. But yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for your
Yeah,
time, and
no problem. My
I hope
pleasure.
to see you soon in US. Hopefully, we finally meet. I don't know after 4 or 5 years, but hopefully we finally.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for being the first one to helping me restart whatever I had started initially.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure. Yeah.
Thanks, Akshay.